Brian McNaught went to be with Jesus on July 24th, 2008. He was a proud member of Promontory Community Church. He lived his life, he lived his faith, and he loved his family dearly. This is Laurie McNaught's story of the power of the church serving.
We started attending Promontory 3 years ago. It'll be 3 years this September that we started to come to Promontory. And I remember us coming and just checking the church out at first and trying to decide if this was where we belonged, and we were feeling things out at first. I remember us thinking, well, maybe we'll just be in the congregation for a while, and then a board came around asking for help in the children's ministry, and both Brian and I just felt like they need help there, and that's a place that we've known that we've been pulled in that area. We've known that God's used us there before. Our kids are in that age group, and we just thought there's a need there, so let's sign the list. Brian was had such a beautiful year in this past year. His involvement with the kids ministry he was loving, and the outdoor adventure group, which Brian loved, and had all these families connecting and going out and having fun and having fellowship. He was having an awesome year, and I remember us saying this spring, we had a coffee together, and we were saying, God's just blessed us. Brian said that to me, Laura. God has just blessed us. And we have felt so blessed, and a lot of that has been just because of the involvement we've had, and just the satisfying feeling of feeling that God's using us. And
in the spring of 2008, Brian began to feel some pain and discomfort in his back. The doctors first thought it was simply a fungus from his caving and all his outdoor involvement. However, after many tests, it was revealed that Brian had a cancerous tumor in his lungs. At that point, Laurie and Brian asked the church to come and anoint him with oil and to begin to pray for his healing.
And it was a most beautiful night. I remember still, Brian would normally have wanted it to be a party. He had everyone come, and at that point we didn't know how sick he was, but we were scared because they had found a tumor then at that point, and we knew that this was something more, and we were scared. And the church came, and everyone just sat around Brian, and we prayed for him, and we asked God to heal him, and we asked God to give us faith and to help us to trust him with Brian's life. And I remember also the church prayed with me and the kids for strength, and it was just a time I'll never forget, and the kids will never forget. One day when Brian was home still, and he was so uncomfortable, some of his good pals from the church, his brothers and just good friends, had come over and were sitting with him, and I think Brian was so uncomfortable, and everyone could see it. I think Brian even said something like, there's not one good piece of furniture in this house. Like, everything is so uncomfortable. He just couldn't get comfortable. And so anyhow, we visited away, and then later everyone left, and Brian was sleeping. He'd gone downstairs to rest, and someone knocked at the door a couple hours later and asked for Carter to go out to the driveway, and I didn't know what was going on, and a few minutes later in came Carter and a man from the church, and they had this great big chair over their shoulders, and they brought this chair in for Brian, and it's way too big for me, but we love it. We call it our prayer chair now. And Brian, they brought it in and set it down, and I remember the man that brought it was so happy because it even went with the color of our carpet, and we were so touched by this chair. And this was a chair for Brian to get comfortable in. And
as Brian grew more sick, the church continued to gather around him and his family. Many meals were cooked and delivered. Teams of people arrived weekly to do yard work, and people helped drive and take care of the kids when needed, as well as many more needs being met.
Because this was something new to us, we hadn't ever had. Actually, it was hard for us to even accept it at first. It was, and we felt overwhelmed by it. But now, as I look back, I think that a lot of the people were there in our lives because we had got to know them through service in the church and through relationships that grew and that were building and were becoming stronger because we were working together, whether it was in the children's ministry or just in little things, even like decorating at Christmas and different things that have come along in the church. It has been a time for building friendships, and that is where a lot of these people then were a part of our life when we went through this hard time, because we had got to know them through these times of service. You don't maybe feel right now connected, or you don't feel like you know people. I just encourage you to get involved in some part, some little part, some area that you feel that maybe you could take part in. It doesn't have to be a big thing, but that starts the chain, and that starts you becoming a part of community and a beautiful part of the church and what the church should be. It should be all of us working together, getting to know each other, and then through that, when you do hit a time in your life like we have hit, all of a sudden there's such support there that wouldn't be in another way.